So every now and again, you just get that feeling that mankind is utterly screwed. It's just too dumb to survive. And at this point, you might as well live it up. Become that evil supervillain on that little desert island that you've always wanted. You know, the one populated by highly experienced supermodel personal bodyguards. So, they promised you a solar-powered, self-filling water bottle.
If you're an adventurer, you know the anxiety that comes with running out of water in the middle of a tour. The last thing you want is dehydration when you're miles away from home. Fontus is a self-filling water bottle that allows you to plan your adventures without having to worry about heavy water loads or where to find the next river or the next gas station. For me, it's like magic because out of thin air and sun, we are bringing this bottle to fill itself with drinkable water.
One that won design awards from engineering companies like Dyson.
And our efforts have been rewarded already with several design awards.
It got $250,000 off Indiegogo. There was just one slight problem with this, that I'd already busted it, showing that what was promised was simply not thermodynamically possible. The core of it being that it takes a huge amount of energy to condense water from the air. It's basically a dehumidifier. And all that they're really going to do is power it with a solar panel. And you can trivially calculate that the amount of water you can condense with a solar panel this size under optimal conditions, perfect conditions, is about 1 litre per week. And we know from earlier that our meter squared solar panel generates about 150 watts of power. So assuming it's sunny, this will give them about 15 watts of power. 15 joules per second. And how many joules do we need to get out of this to extract 1 litre of water? Oh. And that's with the standalone bottle that had this relatively large solar panel with it. The fontus ride had pathetically small solar panels to the point where if you were lucky, it would condense about 1 litre of water per month. If you're heading into the sun or away from it, this device will generate no power whatsoever. So yeah, here's an even better idea. Let's position the device between our legs so it gets no direct sunlight at all. I mean, that really seems like this sort of brilliant idea that would get a design award from an engineering firm for being so damn clever. And the whole thing was going to be done using a peltier device, which are quite commonly used in dehumidifiers. So that's what your typical peltier device looks like. You pass electricity through it. One side gets hot, one side gets cold. And of course, you've got to take that heat away quickly, otherwise the whole thing just, the hot side heats up the cold side, and that's it, you don't get anything. So the way it's typically done is you have a big ass heatsink on the hot side and a little heatsink on the cold side. Peltier device is of course in the middle there somewhere. Now if I take a look at this on the infrared camera. Okay, so at the beginning here I've set the temperature range from about 3 degrees to 40 degrees. So at this temperature range everything looks fairly flat for the heatsink and the background. And you'll see why I've chosen that heat range shortly. So also, you'll see that the metal here is very shiny in the infrared. You don't get the true temperature of the metal. It just looks like a mirror in the infrared. So I stuck this piece of tape on the heatsink, and that will reflect the true temperature of the heatsink. So as I turn it on, instantly you'll see the tape here starts to heat up as the big heatsink starts to heat up and the little heatsink starts to cool down. So instantly it's gone from about 20 degrees to about 10, 8, 7, and this guy is getting really toasty now. He's up at 30 degrees, 35, 36. So the big heatsink is really pumping out the heat, and the little heatsink is now getting down to almost freezing type temperatures. If you can't get this heat away, then you can't actually make this thing any cooler, right? So it's really important that you have this big heatsink to actually get rid of all the heat from the Peltier device. That is, if you can't take that heat away, eventually it will just heat up the whole system and you'll get no cooling out of it whatsoever. This is all important for later. Well, before I get on to the part where I lose faith in mankind and say screw it, it's supervillain time, I'm just going to fill you in on what they've been up to in the intervening year, because I'm sure you're itching to know how well trying to achieve the thermodynamically impossible worked out for them. So, 10 months ago, and clearly in response to my busted video, there have been some questions about the core technology of fontus, leading to some misconceptions regarding the intentions of our campaign. It is paramount to understand that the graphics and video animations shown on our site and video serve merely illustrative purposes. The information shown about the core technology fontus uses to extract water from the air is simplified and incomplete due to the fact that it cannot be made public until it's fully developed. Guys, it's a peltier effect dehumidifier. I don't think you're exactly letting the cat out of the bag here. So, 9 months ago, 1 month later, our campaign has ended very successfully, and we are grateful for your huge support. Thanks to the financial support of the Austrian government funding, we have been able to launch a second phase of development, prototyping, and testing. Jesus, you have got to be kidding me. They got government funding for this. Oh man, that desert island's sounding better and better. 8 months ago. Dear supporters, it's been some busy first weeks going through the final company setup and arrangement while working intensely on the first wave of prototypes. Just slightly behind schedule, we are 60% complete towards creating and building the initial prototype rig, which will serve to be the alpha test unit. So they're almost there, right? 7 months ago. It's been about a month since our last update, since we last spoke, and we've been working overtime on fontus to maximize the testing batches. Unfortunately, we're slightly behind schedule in getting into the testing labs. Yada yada yada. We thank you for your support and patience. Yep, 3 months in and they've got nothing. And now I'm maybe starting to suspect that weirdo on the internet with his, what were they called? Conservation of energy calculations might have had a point. 6 months ago. Good news, dear supporters. Thank you for your patience in waiting for this update. We've been waiting several weeks for different suppliers in order to assemble a new wave of prototypes. Apparently the summer here in California is taken more seriously than we thought. I am in Los Angeles overseeing the technical development and supporting the team that has been tirelessly working on the heart technology of fontus. We have been able to integrate a new type of material composite that has a cooling conductiveness of more than 30 times copper. Copper being one of the highest conducting materials used in the industry. Yeah, they're talking about graphene here. Graphene's got a great thermal conductivity. There's just one slight problem with it. It's twice as expensive as gold. It's about $100 per gram. And even if it had infinite conductiveness, it doesn't help you at all, because all that'll help you to do is get closer to the thermodynamic limit. And I've already shown that operating at the thermodynamic limit, you would only get about 1 liter of water per week out of a device like this. This, combined with our new design for the condenser of the bottle, will create condensation substantially better than most of the dehumidifiers we have been deconstructing and analyzing in the last months. So we're about 6 months in and we're getting some interesting admissions out of them. First of all, they've just been taking apart dehumidifiers and analyzing them. I think that might be intellectual property theft, but that's what they say. Better than most of the dehumidifiers we have been deconstructing and analyzing in the last months. And secondly, they've finally kind of come to terms that all they're really doing is putting a solar-powered dehumidifier on top of a bottle. And even better, they have this nice little picture at the bottom, which oddly doesn't include any pictures of graphene. But I'll tell you what it does contain lots of pictures of is copper heat sinks. Because that's what everyone wants on their self-filling water bottle, is a big, heavy metal heat sink. So, 4 months ago, another 2 months have passed and we are still struggling with some suppliers and the company in charge of prototype development. Consequently, I've decided to relocate the main activities of the development process to Vienna, where we hope to achieve faster results and higher quality. The row of prototypes developed in the US did not meet our performance expectations and processes were overall extremely slow. Now, it's not quite clear whether he's talking about processes as in making the prototype was very slow or the condensation of water was very slow. But I can tell you that yes, the condensation would be very slow, and I actually just bought, just for this video, a dehumidifier and decided to see how much water a commercial Peltier effect dehumidifier running on about 80 watts would condense out of an atmosphere with 30% humidity. Okay, so there I have one dehumidifier, commercial. I have something that's telling me the humidity at 21 degrees is 32%. I have a time-lapse camera here, which I'm going to get going. And how do you know that the dehumidifier is working? Well, I put on this little guy here, so you actually see when the dehumidifier is actually going, blowing air out. So let's see how much water that condenses. This is a commercial dehumidifier, bear in mind. 32 degrees, sorry, 20 Celsius, 32% relative humidity. Okay, so that's been running all day long. It's now 6 o'clock, so it's about 6-7 hours or something. Humidity is basically the same as how it ever was. And let's see how much water has been condensed. And my guess would be not a single drop of water. So you got to bear in mind there was 1 or 2 drops in there earlier. And now that's from running a dehumidifier for about 7 hours. So what you can do is just stick your finger down inside it and actually feel if there's anything condensing in there. So, if you're offended by this thing, don't worry. And somewhere up here I should be able to feel the cold plates. And there are the cold plates. And something moisture on them? Nope, bone dry. Oh no, hang on, no, there is a bit of water. There is, it is very, very slightly wet. Yeah, no, there's actually, no idea where I'll see that. So there's a bit of wet finger. Yeah, no, there. There's a drop of water. Just there. See it? Just there. Yay! I got a single drop of water! So here is Mark II. It's in the bathroom. And there you go. So just run the shower for a bit to get the humidity up. So it's about 50% humidity. And the fan's going. And so let's see how that does running overnight like that. The next day, so we've actually condensed some water. We've actually condensed some water. Although, yeah, you'd have to be pretty desperate if you'd try and live off that. And this dehumidifier runs on about 80 watts. That means you would need about half a square meter of solar panel just to run this. And that would need full, bright sunlight to do it. Approaching the end of October, we are unfortunately out of schedule since the final prototyping phase hasn't yet been completed. Our aim is to finalize this phase by the end of the year. We thank you for your patience. 2 months ago, dear supporters, the end of this controversial year is approaching, and looking back, we realise how much has changed in such a short time. Yeah, like you are finally starting to realise you cannot beat the laws of thermodynamics. We went from a beautiful vision, yes, a beautiful vision by an art student.
We've been working on fontus for a couple of years now here at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna.
And an innovative product concept to explore the technical depths of what it means to extract water from the air. Something you can trivially do with a few back-of-the-envelope calculations and knowledge from Wikipedia. Our first approaches taught us that our expectations and design goals were definitely too high. Nevertheless, our high expectations drove us to challenge the seemingly impossible and reach areas never explored before. Thanks to this fact and your support, we are now investing in the research and development of technologies that may someday also help millions of people around the world suffering from groundwater scarcity. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. This is actually their update. This isn't the water seer thing. This is the self-filling water bottle. Even though we will not reach certain design goals of our project, we are developing highly efficient systems that will bring us one step nearer to creating the first self-filling water bottle in history. Dude, I got a commercial dehumidifier and ran it overnight at 30% humidity at 80 watts and didn't get a single drop of water. The only way you might do this is if you're in a place with high humidity. The only problem is, places with high humidity also tend to have lots of water. And we put together a short Christmas clip for you about our work these first 2 months in our new home in Vienna. So they started off with this sleek little dehumidifier on top of the bottle.
Fontus is a self-filling water bottle that allows you to plan your adventures without having to worry about heavy water loads.
And now they have what is essentially a giant computer fan heatsink on top of a jug. So if you're one of the 222 people who paid $250 for the perk of a Fontus Aero, such that you could be part of history by owning the world's first self-filling water bottle, this is what you might expect to get this time next month. As this video is made March 2017, estimated delivery April 2017. And I would really hate to see what the bicycle mounted version of this is now going to look like. Seriously, just look at this. The air comes in there, it blows out the side there, which means that tiny little bit at the bottom there is where the water collects. Yeah, the design's starting to look more and more like a commercial dehumidifier. And in almost every way. So if I take my my self-filling water bottle, and let's just compare it. So the air comes in at the top, it comes out at the side, then there's a funnel, and a water reservoir at the bottom. The one on the left was the product of $300,000 of research. The one on the right you can buy now for about $50.
Fontus is a self-filling water bottle. For me, it's like magic because out of thin air and sun, we are bringing this bottle to fill itself with drinkable water.
And this is the point where you just lose faith in mankind. After all that, they had funding from the Austrian government. They got design awards from engineering companies. They've had $250,000 and a year to try and achieve what can trivially be shown to be thermodynamically impossible. And after all that, they essentially ended up reinventing the Peltier effect dehumidifier. And now, 2 months ago, we are proud to have been chosen Top Austrian Startup 2016, Austrian's national channel ORF2 announced that the Austrian government will spend 185 million euros on the support of 1,000 startups. They presented the top 4 of this past year, 2016. We are happy and proud to be amongst them. We thank all of our contributors for your continuous support. It would have been impossible without you. We wish you a powerful 2017. Yeah, you're beginning to see my point about being too dumb to survive. So yeah, at this point I feel a little frustration in that I bust these things again and again, and they still end up getting millions of dollars of funding, in some cases from government institutions and the such like. And part of me is just like, I got to reach a wider audience. I've got to be more of an attention whore. Because the simple reality is, if folks don't see videos like this, then they're going to keep falling for it. I mean, the science stuff is great, but you know what? It lacks an element of virality. I need a meme, something utterly pointless and ridiculously expensive that can become a metaphor for this sort of crap. My reckoning is a solid gold hammer, bought and made out of sheer contempt for this sort of crap, a pointless and ludicrously expensive tool as an icon. Because when you look at the numbers, $2 million for solar roadways, $300,000 for fontus, similar again for water seer. The hoverboard, $500,000. Hell, even Anita's Ordinary Women pulled in $200,000. And on any of these numbers, a solid gold hammer would barely scratch the surface and would honestly be a far, far, far better use of the money. The sad thing is that now, having seen so many of these, that I could actually probably do these bogus Kickstarters quite well myself. And part of me is tempted just to become, how shall we say, pure evil. Become the evil supervillain. Get that desert island or underwater base funded entirely by bogus Kickstarters and Indiegogo campaigns. Because Drop Dead Gorgeous Bodyguards ain't cheap.